in this upcoming draft and 5 second-round picks. KD found out while at Fanatics Fest. Here's how it all went down. All right, welcome back. We're here with our guy, Shams Charania again. So, Shams, KD to the Rockets, how did it all go down?
George, in the last couple of days before the trade, the Suns had just essentially been in negotiations with the Miami Heat and the Houston Rockets. Those were the two finalists for Kevin Durant. But at the end of the day, the fact that his preference was Miami, Houston, or San Antonio, it played a big part in where these trade conversations went for the Suns. And if there were teams like Minnesota, others that had interest in him, the fact that he had 1 year left on his deal at $54 million, it gave him an amount of leverage and a voice to be heard in these conversations, not only with the Suns, but other teams. And unlike at the trade deadline, the Suns worked with Kevin Durant and his business partner Rich Kleiman on figuring out his trade home. And with the Rockets, they found a 23-year-old scoring guard in Jalen Green, a tough, gritty 3-and-D player in Dillon Brooks, and draft compensation that now gives them 3 first-round picks eligible to be traded and 8 second-round picks eligible to be traded. And based on all that, clearly the writing was off on the wall for Kevin Durant, and he ends up in Houston.
Okay, Shams, so I got one more question before you go. Can they make some more moves? Do they got anything else cooking potentially?
Well, the good thing about this trade is they still are able to keep Jabari Smith Jr., Reed Sheppard, Tari Eason. I'm told those 3 were untouchables in negotiations that the Rockets had with the Suns over the last several months, because these conversations have been going on for a while. But at the end of the day, now for the Rockets, you bring in Kevin Durant and you still have a plethora of young players on this roster. You have draft assets. So yes, if they do want to make a move for a bigger name player down the line, they could. Right now, their big focus is Fred VanVleet. He's got a $44.9 million team option. Figuring out, do you exercise that option or do you come up with a 2 or 3 year extension for Fred VanVleet? That is the focus for the Rockets, but there's no doubt they do have flexibility, whether it's this summer or in the next few summers, to make another big move.
Shams, you're the man. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks again. All right, so Shams told us how it all went down, but now we're going to get into the why it got down, and that's why we got Danny Green here to break it all down. So, Danny, what will KD bring to this Rockets team?
I mean, one of the weaknesses that we saw that they had, Perk pointed out in the playoffs, is shooting. They are not a great shooting team, especially from the perimeter and three-point or mid-range. As you can see, they're 22 in the NBA, 37% on jumpers in the half court.
Not good.
This is not a great number. So we know what KD brings to the table. He is the king of the mid-range and shooting. From one shooter to another, we can recognize each other. So this guy, whether you're a guard or a big, he's a mismatch all over the floor. Got Kyle Kuzma, a 6'9", 6'10" guard on him, does not matter. That one-legged Dirk fade, give him a shoulder bump, which we've seen a lot from that SGA a lot this postseason. Dirk fade, one-legged fade, bucket, in the mid-range. Right here, he gets a switch. Get Jared Allen, another big man. Mismatch, it doesn't matter who's guarding him. He's too little, too. A little shoulder bump fade. Jared Allen over the top, mid-range, KD, automatic. This is what he does. He brings us to this team. Obviously, they're going to need some shooting and some defense. But in the mid-range area, this will bump them up a ton in the shooting differential in the half-court set.
Yeah, and here are their title odds before the KD trade, tied for 8th, now 2nd in the NBA behind the OKC Thunder.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, so let's welcome in Brian and Perk back here to the conversation. All right, so Perk, Rockets were 2nd in the West last season. So how much better are they now?
They're legit title contenders. And if anybody say otherwise, they don't need to speak the game of basketball, to be honest with you. We could talk about, what happened in Phoenix with Kevin Durant, what happened in Phoenix with Kevin Durant and them not being successful. From an individual standpoint, he was successful, averaging just about 27 points, officially shooting about 40, 50, 90 from the field. And as Danny just said, he addresses the problem for the Houston Rockets, meaning giving them a closer, upgrading them at where they struggled at last season from being a horrible three-point shooting team. And you were able to keep all your pieces. You know what this NBA Finals showed us? The most important position in the NBA is the wing position. I've been saying it, but we got an opportunity to see it with our own eyes. When you look at Nesmith, Dortz, SGA, Cason Wallace, the list goes on, that you got to have guys that are going to defend at a high level and be able to make shots and make plays. The Rockets have that in Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, and even if you want to throw Jabari Smith in there as being a perimeter player at times, he could defend 1 through 5, and they got baby Jokic and Alfred Sengun, who's a top 10 center in the league.
Yeah, I think there's two things here that made this thing work out for Houston. First off, because KD was really determined to control or have a big say in where he went, which meant way back at the trade deadline making it clear he did not want to go to the Warriors, and then it was the Warriors who backed out of that. It wasn't the Suns, it was the Warriors. And then as recently as last week, I do think there was some traction from Minnesota to get a deal done. KD made it clear, I don't want to go there. So with the market narrowing, the ask went down. The second thing is, because the Rockets have so many young players, they were willing to move on from that number 10 pick. You know, getting a lottery pick is hard to do, but because Houston had a lottery pick last year and Reed Shepherd, who didn't really get playing time, that pick was sort of extraneous. The irony is, it's actually the Suns' pick. It's a trade that they got from Brooklyn last year. So the fact that those two things lined up, and look, Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green are starters, and that pick is a valuable pick. They paid a price, but they didn't pay what they didn't want to pay. And so that got Houston comfortable with this. And a big key is, what are they going to sign Kevin Durant to? Will they be able to get him for something less than 2 years and $120 million max? What will they be able to sign Fred VanVleet to if they come to new terms with him? Because they're now looking at giving themselves a contention window that could go rival alongside their rivals to the north in Oklahoma City.
Fascinating stuff. Look, they got the deal done before the draft, obviously, which is just 2 days away. Coming to you from Barclays Center in Brooklyn, the Dallas Mavericks are on the clock and targeting Cooper Flagg with the first pick on Wednesday, June 25th on ABC, ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN Radio. And speaking of Cooper Flagg, here's how his arrival went this weekend.